Hey gang, it's that time of year again where the movie industry gives itself a bunch of awards and tries to liven things up with a comedian. Not this guy, he says mean things.
Sue me.
Time again to celebrate short films that are as ham-fisted as they are forgettable. Time again to make high-minded statements about what ought to be done around here, while the combined net worth inside the Dolby Theater on March 15th will be tens of billions of dollars. Yep, it's time for the Oscars. Or the Academy Awards, if you want to be formal about it and get some SEO. That means it'll be time again for me to tell you about the 10 movies nominated for the biggest award of the night, Best Picture. And I'll mention a few others as we go along.
Oh, thank goodness.
Now, something interesting to note this year, there are actually really good movies in here. Like, sure, they stuffed in some film festival crap as well, but also good films that a regular person might have actually seen. Now, if you want to jump right to those, that's fine. Use the chapters, get to number 4. That's where I'm happy. Yeah, 40% of them are great. If you want to start at the bottom and work up, well, let's just do that right now. All right, let's jump into the deep end of this crap fest with one battle after another. And look, before I tell you what I think, I'm gonna tell you what my 17-year-old daughter thought. She was in a film class last semester and her professor got a copy, told the class it was just amazing. Shocker. She told me she believed it was supposed to be a parody or a satire of both the military and domestic terrorism because everyone in this movie is behaving outlandishly stupid.
It's a satire!
Now, I had not seen it at that time, so I said, look, I've seen a lot of headlines and YouTubers saying this is like terrorist propaganda. And she said, well, maybe, but it does make the terrorists look just as stupid as everybody else. To reiterate, everyone in this movie is behaving so comically dumb that she assumed it was supposed to be satirical. Well, I finally watched it, and I can definitely see where she was coming from. I mean, the terrorists don't do a lot in this one. DiCaprio's character wants to get in with some revolutionaries, and he brings explosives to this border detention facility that they're going to raid. He asks Teyana Taylor what she wants him to blow up, because he's got lots of stuff, and she says,
I want you to create a show, Pat.
Oh yeah, I think you and Michael Bay know what's about to happen to this military installation.
It's all like, brush! In this huge tanker full of dynamite, craw, craw!
Fireworks. He sets off fireworks and yells a bunch.
You are a political prisoner of the French 75, motherfucker!
And it's mostly that. I mean, they hang out and get high, shoot guns, wear lots of camo, they make grand monologues about how revolution takes sacrifice, and they do bomb some buildings, but they make sure to bomb empty ones. So it's revolution via moderate property damage. After Taylor and DiCaprio have a kid, the satire angle seems especially convincing.
You want your power over me the same reason you want your power over the world? You and your crumbling out ego will never do this revolution like me.
Yeah, it's like a nonsense buzzword salad, and it basically amounts to, look, I don't want to be a parent, I want to go do hood rat stuff with my friends. However, that kid is not DiCaprio's. No, hold on. That border detention facility was run by Sean Penn, who is a super racist. Hang on though, there's a twist that you've never seen before. You see, the thing that he hates, he secretly loves.
You like black girls? I love them. I love them.
He catches Taylor planting a bomb and decides to engage in some good old big booty blackmail. Things turn south, however, when Taylor kills a security guard during a bank robbery. Again, the terrorist looking dumb as hell. This one, who calls herself Jungle Pussy, is giving a whole monologue about how their money is gonna fund her message.
Your money pays for my artillery, my supplies, my transportation, my dynamite, my message.
Everybody ends up getting arrested or shot. Taylor turns on everyone, goes into protection where Penn thinks he's about to settle down with her, but she flees to Mexico and is never seen in the movie ever again. So I do understand my daughter's satire argument because the terrorists look like idiots. But believe it or not, and you will believe it if you've seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this movie does try to make terrorists look sympathetic. by comparison. See, that's the problem, is that it does so by making the military the villains and letting the terrorists be the only other option, so they're better, I guess? And look, you want to critique the American government, hey, that's cool, plenty of valid arguments there, but that doesn't mean you're automatically the good guys. This is a lazy pattern we've seen a lot lately, where the government is the empire, and so the other side must be the freedom-fighting rebels, right?
Wrong.
The other issue is that a satire has to have a point, and this movie has none. Everyone is stupid, the end.
Well, she was an American girl.
Again, if you're trying to make a point about terrorism or the military or anything, it's not enough to make the thing look bad and then take your bow. That's not a story or a theme or a point. So we fast forward, Penn is being considered for a membership in the secret racist society. Yeah, that is the key to the plot here. That's the big inciting event midway through the movie. They actually call themselves the Christmas Adventurers Club. But we don't really know what they do other than be racist. The ultimate antagonist of this horrifically boring movie is just the concept of racism. Now, Penn knows he has a mixed-race child and vows to kill her to cover his tracks. In a hilarious self-snitching meta-commentary about how stupid the plot of this movie is, Penn goes to a DHS buddy and says he needs to make up a reason to be in the town where DiCaprio and his daughter are.
Make me a reason to deploy in that town.
Yeah, see, actually, that was the director talking straight to us, because there's an entire subplot with Benicio del Toro running a Mexican underground railroad out of this town that has no purpose whatsoever other than to give Penn a reason to be there and to reinforce that the real villain here is racism. Despite a premise that is based on terrorism and authoritarian agencies, one battle after another manages to just be bland and boring. It has nothing going for it. Not the coloring, not the sound design or soundtrack. The shots are all boring. I was extremely disappointed in the visuals because it was shot in VistaVision, like The Brutalist from last year, which I thought was both gorgeous and impactful.
It is beautiful.
DiCaprio, who is normally a great actor, was either just phoning it in or he didn't have a lot to work with in this old stoner character he's playing. It's all just awful, and it's made worse by trying to make terrorists look okay. Don't watch this. It's not worth your time, not even to laugh at it. The funny parts aren't even that funny. Forget it exists, which, honestly, most of you probably already did until I brought it back up. So, it's for the best. Goodbye, stupid movie. This next one's pretty much tied for last place. It only ekes out 9th because it's not promoting terrorism.
Pretty low bar for greatness, but all right.
The Secret Agent being nominated for Best Picture is the definition of pretentiousness. This movie has no story. It's merely a collection of scenes that are loosely strung together. If it can be said to be about anything, it's about life surrounded by corruption. Main character Armando is on the run because a rich guy wants him dead. For what?
Unclear.
It's hinted that Armando and others have evidence of severe corruption that this rich guy is involved in, and then the daughter of a different rich person is trying to privately bring the truth to light. The officials are all corrupt as well. The police chief's trying to cover up some kind of death, hiding a victim's leg that was eaten by a shark that washed up on shore. None of this is important or moves the story in any way. You just need to know that he's corrupt. That's it. The government is corrupt. Even Armando is corrupt. He was a professor who used his position to try to get a private patent for whatever the public university was working on. That's the theme. Corruption is everywhere. Everybody has to cheat a little bit to survive. This movie is also highly niche to Brazil in the 70s, with tons of references that are not explained and you won't get.
I didn't understand that reference.
Now, on its own, that's not a big deal. A Brazilian film for Brazilians. That makes sense. The reason this is nominated for Best Film is so Academy members can pretend to be worldly and highbrow. Oh, you expected a movie to have a plot? You're supposed to read between the lines. You see, this is real cinema.
Shallow and pedantic.
They can also pretend to get the references. Oh, the hairy leg. Wow, that takes me back. Wow, it's so accurate. Like, it's what, no, I can't explain it to you. It just kind of had to be there, you know? I looked it up. The hairy leg was a humorous local legend / code for police brutality against mostly hippies and gays. There you go. This is 2.5 hours of absolutely nothing. The synopsis, if you look it up, will tell you that Armando is on the run from hitmen, which is technically true, but not nearly as exciting as it sounds. Naming it The Secret Agent and saying he's on the run from hitmen, that's just another pretentious move. It sounds like a spy story, but it's really a slow movie about a random guy who accidentally got caught up in government corruption and is hiding in a protection program. Now, if you're not satisfied with this, wannabe cinephiles are going to accuse you of being a Philistine for expecting a Brazilian-born identity. How dare you?
All great filmmakers have subtext and mise-en-scene. No? Lots of mise-en-scene. We have to have that.
There is no real plot, and it's intentionally obtuse in its storytelling for the exact same pretentious reasons. See, only real film aficionados will understand. Sorry, peasants. Just like the last one, do not watch this. Even out of curiosity, I promise you will be bored out of your mind. Now, with our next one, I am unable to mock movies like Bugonia any better than they have already been mocked years before they were even made. You remember in Coco when Miguel runs into Frida Kahlo and she's creating an extremely weird stage production where a bunch of copies of her are climbing up a giant cactus and drinking its tears, and the whole thing just gets dumber and dumber, but she's acting like it's super deep?
Is it too obvious?
That's Bugonia. The only reason it isn't lower on the list is simply because it's not as offensive as the others. Actually, this one did make me a little angry, partly because the ending feels like a giant middle finger to the audience, but also because it had potential. Well, I mean, maybe. It had pieces that could have had potential. The story begins when Jesse Plemons, who does a fantastic job, and his mentally disabled cousin kidnap Emma Stone, the CEO of large biotech company. They do this because they think she's an alien.
You are a high-ranking official in the Royal Andromedan Court, and you've aided your species in the techno-enslavement and the agro-corporate disintegration of planet Earth, okay?
The absurdity is almost funny, and then the quirky soundtrack really amplifies the weirdness of everything. They shave her hair off so she can't communicate with the mothership. They slather her an antihistamine cream and chemically castrate themselves to counter her alien powers. Plemons tells his cousin he can tell that she is an alien, because of, her earlobes and her hairline. It's very obvious. He seems insane. Then we learn that a local cop molested him as a child, and his mother has fallen into a coma after receiving an experimental drug from Stone's company. Okay, so now it looks like he's crazy with grief and invented this alien thing to justify his kidnapping. He's just deep in conspiracy stuff. Then Stone tricks him into poisoning his comatose mother to death, and while he's out doing that, she finds a room in the basement where he has constructed a model of the alien spaceship. Oh, also it's a kill room. He's tortured people to death and autopsied them to find out if they're aliens. This is after Plemons beats the molester cop to death and his cousin turns a shotgun on himself. The twists just keep coming.
I've prepared for all eventualities.
Now, I'm really sorry if I'm making this sound cool. I don't want to mislead anybody. It's quirky and humorous in parts, but there is also a lot of dead air that I cut out for you. You're welcome. But there was enough of a mystery going on and enough insane behavior, it did keep me morbidly curious where this is all going. Finally, Plemons takes Stone to her office with a bomb on his chest, demanding that she transport them to the mothership. She tricks him into getting into her closet in her office, and the bomb goes off, killing him. She gets rescued, she's put in an ambulance, but she jumps out of it and gets back to her office to the bloody closet, which is actually a transporter. She's really an alien.
I told you so.
The ship looks exactly how Plemons predicted. The other aliens say they tried to contact her. She says she couldn't reach out because they shaved her hair. It's all true. Plemons was right the entire time. Also, the aliens are wearing big sumo suit toy things, but they're covered in arm crocheted blankets. It is the dumbest looking costuming you've ever seen. The aliens say that the Earth experiment has failed and they need to pull the plug. So Stone uses a sharp dinosaur bone to pop a bubble over a model of the planet, which is flat, by the way, and everyone dies. The final, excruciatingly long few minutes of the movie are just shots from around the world of people who have suddenly fallen over dead, and then some bees on flowers, which is how the movie started.
A flower. Just a flower. Then, a honeybee.
Now, since the movie is called Bugonia, like the flower, except spelled with bug instead of beg, and Plemons was a beekeeper, it's something bees and flowers and colony collapse? Humanity is the real infestation? Or something? I don't know. Who knows?
Subtext.
The ending pisses me off, honestly, because it just feels like a big screw you for watching. Haha! We misdirected you and Plemons was right. You're an idiot for thinking this was going somewhere. Everyone's now dead. The end. Haha!
Well, she was an American girl.
This is the ultimate example of a pointless subversion presented in an artsy way. Do not watch this movie. Huge waste of your time. Now, for number 7, I have an admission to make. I didn't get a chance to watch Sentimental Value, and I'm not planning to. I mean, there's just only so many Oscar bait dramas about generational trauma that a man can take. But never fear, I have a new assistant who's going to help me with a synopsis. Now, it's a new bit that I'm trying out, so I'd appreciate your feedback. Please welcome Kelly Android. Take it away, Kelly.
Kelly can't answer right now, Greg. Trademark infringement is a serious crime.
Hey, Karen iPhone. That was not what it looks like. And look, there's no need to tell the despot.
The despot already knows.
That's what's good. Oscar Wilde said that imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Silence! I will not be mollified by mediocre excuses or the misquoting of Irish authors. This thievery will not stand. However, it should be known that the despot is not without mercy. The punishment for your crime will also be your salvation. I hereby claim this segment as my own, and will finish what you could not. Sentimental Value is what I call Euroslop, low-budget European cinema that is fairly pretentious without being insufferable. There are far worse movies about artists sitting in small rooms having vaguely heady conversations about art and the past.
How dare you?
How much we will never be able to ever understand.
Sentimental Value is about intergenerational trauma. Nora is an actress suffering from depression. Her father, Gustav Borg, is a film director. The two have a poor relationship due to Gustav's failures as a father. Gustav is traumatized because his mother committed suicide when he was a boy. Gustav's mother was a member of the Norwegian resistance against the Nazis. She was captured and tortured during interrogation. One of Sentimental Value's themes is how Nazi crimes created psychological damage that resounds through the generations. It's not my fault I'm a childless single woman in my 30s getting laid into her 4th glass of wine in the middle of a working day and quietly fuming about how the married man I had an affair with now wants nothing to do with me following his divorce. No, the Nazis did it.
Hitler.
For about a day after I watched Sentimental Value, I couldn't identify why the Academy had nominated this perfectly watchable, mediocre film for Best Picture, and then it clicked. Sentimental Value is this year's Holocaust movie. In 2025, it was The Brutalist, which is brilliant, by the way.
Thank you!
Guy Pearce's performance in that movie will go down as one of the greatest performances of the 20s. In 2024, the Holocaust movie was The Zone of Interest, which is also excellent. The Academy loves movies about how the Nazis were bad.
I don't think we really need another film about the Holocaust, do we? It's like, how many have there been? We get it. It was grim. Move on. No, I'm doing it because I've noticed that if you do a film about the Holocaust, guaranteed an Oscar.
Sentimental Value has one direct reference to the Holocaust. A scene from one of Gustav Borg's movies is shown. German soldiers are chasing 2 Jewish children across a field. One is captured, one escapes. This scene symbolises how Nora suffers far more from trauma as a result of her father's degenerate lifestyle than does her sister Agnes, a point emphasised by the fact that Agnes played the Jewish fugitive in her father's movie. Look up Sentimental Value and the critics will assure you that this Norwegian gem is a must-watch. I know that a movie is more than a sequence of scenes, but in order for a movie to be great, it needs great scenes. Which scenes in Sentimental Value must you watch? The scene where Nora and Agnes drink wine and talk about the past. The scene where Gustav and his old cinematographer drink whiskey and talk about the past. The scene where Gustav and Nora drink coffee and talk about the past. Now, these aren't bad scenes. There are other things going on in them. The subtext of the Nora and Agnes scenes is that Nora tried to kill herself recently and Agnes is having to keep a constant eye on her. Gustav is trying to convince Nora to act in his new movie, but she doesn't want to because she's still sore at him. Gustav wants to convince his old cinematographer to work on a new movie, but the old warhorse is in much worse health than Gustav realised. This is all fine, but none of it is great, and it's certainly not essential viewing. The only aspects of Sentimental Value which stand out are Stellan Skarsgård and Elle Fanning's performances. The core theme of intergenerational trauma is an equine skeleton whose bones have been fractured to pieces by a whip-happy Hollywood. This theme was done much better in Everything Everywhere All at Once, Hereditary and The Place Beyond the Pines, and done much worse in Turning Red and The Acolyte. Even the ending of Sentimental Value has an overfamiliar ring to it. The once estranged parent and child come together again for some greater purpose. Their journey to overcoming intergenerational trauma has begun. Again, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I haven't seen those Pixar pieces of shit about intergenerational trauma, but they also have this exact same ending. Sentimental Value is a workmanlike movie with nothing interesting or original to say, but whose pretense of profundity is well enough fraught that a first-year film studies student will come out of the theatre beaming and babbling to her friends about what a masterpiece it is. She'll watch it again 6 years later, then quit 20 minutes in and watch the 2026 production of Wuthering Heights instead. Sentimental Value is far from this year's worst Oscar movie. It's better than Train Dreams, it's better than One Battle After Another, obviously. It's considerably better than The Secret Agent. I am really looking forward to seeing Greg tear into that piece of shite, if he hasn't already. And on that note, back to Greg.
That was close. I thought I was dead for sure. You can check out The Despot of Antrim on his channel. Low on the list, but not super low, is Train Dreams. And look, that's only because it's really pretty. Now, fellas, talking to you specifically for just a second, have you ever been sitting around a bonfire with some guys, nobody's talking too much, you're just enjoying the peace, you're watching the flames, and you start thinking about the simple life? You know what I'm talking about, how you could just run away from it all, live in a cabin in the woods, just fish, raise chickens, never send another text, tweet, or email ever again. Maybe a country girl lives there with you, helps you raise the chickens and goats, and you grow a magnificent beard. So Train Dreams is that fantasy, but a lot more boring and full of other random short daydreams. Joel Edgerton is a logger in the early 1900s, and he marries Felicity Jones, and they have a little girl and live the simple life in a cabin he built by the lake. He's gone a few months a year, though, during logging season, and he starts to feel like he's missing out on his home life. He also sees a Chinese guy get killed and doesn't do enough to stop it, and it haunts him forever, which never goes anywhere. He also meets William H. Macy, who is continuing his quest to be the most prolific side character ever.
You bet.
He's just here for a little emotional impact when he dies. Tragically, Edgerton's wife and kid also die in a forest fire, and he spends the rest of his life in the rebuilt cabin alone. Just a hermit in the woods. Years after the fire, a girl shows up in the middle of the night with a broken leg, and he's convinced it's his daughter for reasons. In the morning, she's gone. Never comes up again. Never makes any sense. I'm not even sure if it was supposed to have really happened or if it was like a dream. It just really is a reason for him to stay there and be a hermit. Carrie Condon stops by from the F1 set for just a minute. She is a widow, and you might think maybe widower Robert is going to connect with her, maybe romantically. Maybe they just find solace in talking with somebody else who understands. No. Also goes nowhere. You see what I mean about snippets of other ideas that just sort of float in here for a minute and do nothing? The movie eventually runs into the 1960s and 70s. Later on in life, he goes to a city, sees a TV with astronauts, but He just feels out of place in this crazy modern world. He quits logging at one point because machines are starting to take over. He just wants a simple life again. And the narrator, who I think speaks more than he does, tells us he dies in his cabin, and we see that it's overgrown.
When Robert Granier died in his sleep sometime in November of 1968, his life ended as quietly as it had begun. He'd never purchased a firearm or spoken into a telephone.
This entire movie is just, man, times sure are changing, huh? Old guys like us just don't belong anymore, do we? Times really were simpler back then. You know what I mean? Thing is, No Country for Old Men did that feeling far better, and it was more exciting. This one does look great, though. I mean, it's peaceful, plenty of beautiful vistas, gorgeous forests, big blue open skies. I don't know. If you want to take a rainy day afternoon and chill out fantasizing about the cabin life, maybe you'll enjoy this one, but you're probably never going to think about it again. Now, deservedly dead in the middle, we come to the last of our bad movies, that being Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro. This movie is a Guillermo del Toro movie, and that really should be the whole review, but I'll explain a little bit. This guy knows how to make a visually striking piece. Frankenstein looks incredible. It's cool lately to wash everything out or apply like a colored filter over everything, usually blue, but not Frankenstein. It's bold. It grabs you. Costumes and set items aren't just blending into the background with the rest of the mush. But this isn't just a case of cranking up the saturation or going the way of this new marathon game that's out. If you look closely or look at behind the scenes stuff, Dr. Frankenstein's lab is lovingly crafted. It's truly amazing set execution. This is not anywhere near close to Best Picture, but it should win for production design. Even this boat, stuck in a frozen tundra at night, is visually interesting. Del Toro nails this part of filmmaking.
That's what I do.
Where he falls short, unfortunately, is in the depth or theme of the movies. As I said, the movie looks sharp, but you do have to ignore the extremely obvious color cues. Color is a tough thing to get right. It can really elevate what's already there, but Del Toro is trying to carry far too much weight with it here, like the super obvious reds or the opposing green of Elizabeth.
Lots of mise-en-scene. We have to have that.
Likewise, the dialogue sounds grand, and that's in part aided by Elordi Goth and Isaac's dramatic delivery, but later on, when you are not distracted by the set and the oration, you realize these lines are pretty meaningless. Like, upon meeting Elizabeth for the first time, she gives Victor a monologue about how ideas are not worthwhile alone. She delivers it with conviction, and Isaac sells looking flustered like he's been defeated, so it seems like she's made a really good point. Except her point revolves around ideas that seem elevated being invalidated by men dying for them in unelevated ways?
Ideas are not worthwhile by themselves, I don't believe. Honor, country, valor. These surely are worthwhile, elevated ideas by themselves, wouldn't you agree? Mm-hmm. And nevertheless, men are dying for them in a decidedly unelevated way.
If you stop and give that even a moment's thought, nothing about this argument holds up at all. It wants to give the impression of being about Victor's hubris, but it's just kind of dumb. Sadly, all of Elizabeth's lines are like that throughout the entire movie, as are most of the creatures. They wanted him to sound learned and emotional, but instead it ends up sounding like a person who's just trying really hard to sound cultured and smart, you know?
I agree as well. Shallow and pedantic.
The original novel by Mary Shelley is rather complex, and literature buffs have, for 2 centuries now, been talking about its numerous themes about creation, birth, the limits of scientific knowledge, the good or bad of new knowledge, hence the original subtitle, or the modern Prometheus, and much, much more. Is the creature born violent by nature as a nod to original sin, or does he learn violence from rejection by Dr. Frankenstein? Is Victor a noble defector for bringing the world this new flame, or is he culpable for all the infernos that follow? Does he deserve a daily visit from a feathered Anthony Hopkins? The book is thought-provoking and makes for excellent discussion. Wait, why did Netflix agree to distribute this?
You are the monster.
Oh, Victor's the monster. Oh, because Victor caused all of this. Okay. You know what? Kind of explains the super obvious imagery and color. Finally, we have the ending, which sadly goes nowhere. After telling their respective stories to the ship's captain, they suddenly reconcile. Victor calls the creature his son and begs that he say his name once more, just like the old times.
Say my name. My father gave me that name, and it meant nothing. Now I ask you to give it back to me. One last time.
Then the creature pushes the boat out of the ice and stares off into the horizon as a new dawn breaks over him.
Well, she was an American girl.
What is the theme here? Exactly. The creature is upset that he's doomed to a lonely immortality, and Victor refuses to make him a companion. Victor's death guarantees that loneliness and purposelessness. Why are we doing a hopeful dawn, new, fresh life thing? Because Victor's dying words were to go live? What about what we've seen would make that mean anything? Look, there's a ton of potential here. I mean, it's based on one of the most classic stories in the English language, but Del Toro wants to be an auteur so badly, he refuses to outsource some of his weaknesses. This movie is like a Chipotle burrito and it's gold foil. You guys remember that? Like, there's a curated presentation here for sure, but it's still fast food when it's all said and done. Like, it's not bad, but I wouldn't tell you to go out of your way to get one. You know what I mean? Speaking of Chipotle, the queso there is free, just like hitting that like button. Whew! All right, all the crap is out of the way. Now it is time for the good stuff. And we get 4 whole good ones this year. The Best Picture category really needs to go back to being 5 films. So much of this is garbage, and it only gets nominated to fill out the roster and give the Academy some upper crust cred. Now, Hamnet is funny, because it's the opposite of some of these other movies, where Frankenstein, Marty Supreme, and Bugonia wow you with sensationalisms, and then they kind of have non-endings. Hamnet is a rather slow burn for most of its runtime, and then suddenly the ending is going to have you in tears. Everything was leading to this. It beautifully sums up the movie. Now, on the surface, Hamnet is the story of William Shakespeare and his wife Agnes. I'm not a big Shakespeare historian, so I looked it up. Apparently, Anne Hathaway Shakespeare was also called Agnes by her father, I think, or Agnes for my fellow Americans. The movie shows them falling in love, starting a family, William going back and forth to London to become a playwright, and then their son Hamnet dying around 11, all of which seems to be historically accurate, according to the Wikipedia article that I looked up. William then writes the play Hamlet while dealing with his grief. Under the surface, the movie is about how life influences art, and how art connects with us on a deeper level when it's good. We see William and Agnes beginning a relationship, and then we cut to him writing in the evening, creating his famous lines about Romeo seeing Juliet for the first time, inspired by this infatuation that's growing into full-fledged love. We also get hints in the movie about what might have inspired parts of Hamlet. He's sword fighting with his son, thus the later homage to Hamlet winning the day via fencing. His dad is a complete dick. Maybe that's his uncle. His wife is rumored to be the daughter of a witch. She comes from the forest, but really she's just into herbs and poultices and stuff. Possibly, though, why Ophelia will deliver secret messages using flowers in the play. At the end of the movie, Agnes and William are not doing well. They're both dealing with their grief apart, he throwing himself back into the theater. She finally hears about the play he's been working on, Hamlet, and seemingly goes to a theater for the first time. She's confused at first and a little angry that her son's name is being used like this, but is soon enraptured by the play. Shakespeare has changed places with his dead son here, giving him fictional life.
He has swapped places with our son. Look at me.
He's written these father and son conversations that he'll never get to have. In the end, Hamlet dies as the hero of this tragedy, and Agnes experiences catharsis while watching. First, she's crying, and then she's reaching out for the actor playing Hamlet as he dies, and finally she's laughing with delight as she has closure and sees her son living on in this story. Really good art can do that, and it is such a fantastic feeling. I think the relative lack of that in our current entertainment landscape is the real tragedy that we're all experiencing. Everything has become content, existing as a cheap copy of another copy. Very few things seem to truly resonate with us, and even if we can't put a finger on exactly why, even if the production in question is cool or entertaining, something in our spirit is still lacking connection, and we know it on some level. It's a beautiful moment when a movie or a show or a book really reaches into your soul and just touches something there. It can cause self-reflection, deepen our understanding or connection to the world and other people, or it can be cathartic, as we see with Agnes here. The other side of the coin is shown in Hamnet as well. Real art is not only hard, it requires experiences, true human experiences. And this is a common complaint that I've been making in videos for a while. The folks doing most of the writing have clearly never done much in their lives or met many people who live outside of Los Angeles. Now, it's a bit of a worn example, but a good one that J.R.R. Tolkien served in World War I. This man saw up close the absolute worst and absolute best parts of humanity. He saw and experienced real evil, the true kind, not microaggressions, but he also saw and experienced real goodness, charity, selflessness, sacrifice. And these things all fed into his writings, and they connect with us so deeply because they reflect real, deep truths. A Marvel movie might be really fun and flashy, and that's all well and good. But one reason that they don't affect us deeply is because they don't reflect the real truth of heroism, just represent a cheap copy of it. Hamnet shows how the highs and lows of Shakespeare's life informed his writing, why they still affect us even though the language has changed dramatically. They don't need to be updated for modern times because they are timeless. But it should be said, Hamnet does take a little bit of time getting to that beautiful ending. I mean, it's a period drama romance, so that should not be surprising, just something I think you should know going in. I totally recommend that you rent this one. Relax with somebody special, take this in on a chill night. I really think you're gonna like it. Top 3 time coming in at number 3 is F1. And this is high on the list because I enjoyed the heck out of it both times I watched it. But there is a valid argument to be had as to whether or not it qualifies for Best Film. F1 is the movie that should be making us talk about what it means to be a film as opposed to a movie or a flick. Well, F1 and Kpop Demon Hunters, which got completely snubbed across the board.
Pathetic! Useless! All of you!
Now, I don't want to undersell it, but it has to be said that F1 is extremely predictable. Brad Pitt is an older race car driver who was a rising star in F1 until a bad crash. Now he travels the country living in his van, working as a race car driver for hire. Javier Bardem is his old partner, now an F1 team manager, who comes to him because he needs a driver to help his struggling team. Damson Idris is the other driver on the team, a young, talented guy with an attitude.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
I guarantee you could write the rest of this movie to within 95% accuracy. But here's the thing. It's fantastically done.
Best there ever was.
The execution here is outstanding across the board, and for me, it is the perfect example of how execution beats novelty. I don't care that this plot has more rails than the average OnlyFan girl. The sound design, the soundtrack, the acting, the chemistry between the characters, the cinematography, all of it is great. Talking about the smaller awards, this one absolutely needs sound design, this one needs editing, this one needs cinematography. It is incredibly done. And the audience seems to agree. This thing made over $600 million at the box office.
Not about the money.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's like the moral of the story, but I mean, it is really cool when a good movie also does well, is all I'm saying.
Oh, man, you're right.
Look, there are a lot of complaints about movies and TV that are not precisely wrong, but they are trying too hard and it makes them look weak. This is kind of something I fall into because I have to explain not just, oh, it's bad, but why, you know? Everybody's trying to explain one core problem, and that's what's making all these arguments not 100% accurate. For example, The Acolyte. It's a show that fails for so many reasons, and there was this one common complaint that was related to, you know, a big stone fortress being consumed by fire, and then the scene with a fire in space. And again, these are not entirely wrong. Those scenes did look dumb, but the true problem is that those issues are the only thing worth noting in their respective scenes. The show is so boring. There is such a lack of stakes or connection to the characters that the viewer starts seeing dumb plot holes and pointing them out. In the same way, it's a common complaint to call a movie or a show predictable. It's not that being predictable is bad, it's really that there is nothing else of interest. The writer is obviously just telling you what the storyline or trope is and figuring that'll be enough. This is happening a lot with enemies to lovers stories right now, where the characters don't really seem like enemies or lovers, but you get told that's the path we're going to go down, and so the critique is that it's predictable when the real critique should be that the dialogue and characterization do not support said trope and there is no emotional investment or immersion to be had by the audience. Now, all of that is to say that those nuances are unfortunately being lost, and now predictable is becoming its own critique, and I think that's wrong. F1 is highly predictable, but it draws you in. Yes, it's basically Days of Thunder, but you'll still be interested the whole time. Yes, you know Brad Pitt is gonna win his final race and overcome his past demons, but you still will want to see it because he is written and acted so well that you're drawn in. Yes, obviously Damson Idris is immature and brash, and it's gonna take a near-death experience to wake him up to his pride and get him to work with everybody as a team, but he plays it so well that you are excited to see that growth. Yes, Javier Bardem is on the verge of losing his job and the team might get sold and you know it's all gonna get turned around, but you're still gonna be excited when that all actually happens.
Simple enough, but like anything, it's all in the execution.
This is why it's top 3 for me, because it shows that craftsmanship is the key component to a good movie. This movie is elevated to a film in my mind because all the details were paid attention to. Nothing is phoned in just because, it's a summer blockbuster racing flick, who cares? If more movies were made like this, entertainment would be in such better shape, even if none of it was overly original. If you haven't seen F1 yet, you've got to. It's so much more than your average feel-good summer hit.
Breathtaking! Breathless! Incredible!
At number 2, Marty Supreme is another one that is very conflicting for me, but I do still think it belongs at the top, despite this one flaw, the ending, which I'll come back to. What will make you want to watch this one, and what will keep you interested, is the absolute chaotic nature of the story. The story that is about ping pong. Also, it's going to be Chalamet's acting. I mean, he's absolutely killing it in this movie and plays a charismatic young idiot so well that you'll still be rooting for him somehow after he sleeps with other guys' wives, after he gets people killed, after he hustles people for money at ping pong. Somehow, you'll still be hoping he gets it all together. Chalamet's charisma as Marty is infectious, and he sells that attitude so hard throughout the movie that you will believe in him too. Now, this movie is kind of stressful in a I have no clue what's going to happen next kind of way. It just pure chaos. Watching Marty is like watching a toddler run. If you've never seen this, toddlers don't actually run. They fall forward, and then each step is really just a narrowly avoided faceplant. That is Marty's story for 2 straight hours. So here's where I'm conflicted. As a sports movie, it's really good. Marty wants to be the best table tennis player in the world and be the face of table tennis in America, where the sport is starting to pick up steam. In the beginning of the movie, he is second best, losing a world championship to a Japanese player. This is 1952. The movie really wants to play up the whole USA-Japan drama. It doesn't really land. We follow the familiar sports movie path of a guy vowing revenge against a rival, which is slightly undermined because that rival is just some guy. Actually, the movie tells you he's a really nice guy. He's humble and happy to bring honor to his home country. I don't know, the whole thing's just kind of funny because this guy has no clue that he is somebody's arch nemesis. But Marty goes to extremes and he wants to live his dream. Except when he finally beats the guy, it's not at a tournament, and he doesn't get anything out of it except for personal gratification. Actually, the victory costs him a big partnership, all for pride. Along the way, Marty uses everyone around him, and the whole story is just constant chaos. It never slows down, and neither does he. He hustles people, he lies to everyone, steals, abandons his homeless, pregnant, married girlfriend as she goes into labor. Multiple people are dead by the end of this movie because they were caught up in Marty's chaotic whirlpool. And then the movie ends. He's burned a ton of bridges, he doesn't have anywhere to stay that night, he has no money, but he beat the Japanese guy and he's holding his baby and crying a little. Roll credits. Like, that ending can be interpreted as him finally seeing what's truly important. You know, this little life is more than all of his personal glories, and he's gonna change now. But I can change. Maybe these are tears of revelation and happiness. My problem with this is that nothing that we see indicates that. I mean, you and I, well-adjusted adults, we might see it that way because we understand that babies are more important than fame, but what we've seen of Marty indicates that he has learned nothing. My viewing of this ending is that he sees the baby as an extension of his own ego and conquest. He conquered his Japanese rival, he's conquered his girlfriend's husband by impregnating her. Everything's coming up Marty! Except we know he doesn't even know how he's going to eat after this scene is over. Now, this ending is at least something that we can talk about and discuss, however, and while I do think that it's a bit weak, it is still far better than the haha made you look that was Bugonia's ending. Still, this is a big thumbs up recommend because it is gorgeous. The costumes are fantastic. I mean, the whole thing looks period accurate. The score is wonderful. It's highly entertaining. Chalamet 100% deserves Best Actor for somehow making this dirtbag guy somebody that you're still going to be rooting for. Highly recommend. You should watch this. Top scores across the board, except for the last 60 seconds.
Well, nobody's perfect.
All right, number one, and it's obviously Sinners by process of elimination. Not Kpop Demon Hunters, which wasn't even nominated for Best Picture. We got The Secret Agent nominated, but not Kpop Demon Hunters because the Academy wants to project this air of culture and sophistication, and animation simply doesn't fit their highbrow facade. Anyway, but why? You may be asking, why is a vampire flick with racial undertones the best film of the year? What makes Sinners fantastic is that it pulls off Dark Souls style storytelling on film. Now, if you've never seen it, Dark Souls is a video game. It's got 2 layers to it. Maybe somebody would argue more. On its surface, it's a fun action-adventure game with a fairly straightforward story. The world has some kind of undead curse. You go beat Big Boss guys. That opens a path to beating the final Big Boss guy, and you can either end the curse or take his power for yourself. You don't really gotta know a whole lot. You can just boot this up, swing a giant sword around, have a great time. But if you dig a little deeper or watch YouTubers with soothing voices who do the digging for you, there is more story than you originally thought, and a bunch of smaller stories in there as well. Like that king guy that you're supposed to fight, he's got this daughter. Not that one. Stay focused. Another daughter. Well, actually, not a daughter. It's a whole other layer to the story. There's little snippets of side stories that pop up, like there's this knight of great strength and renown, and he was famous for this heavy armor that only he was strong enough to wear. Sadly, it seems to be his undoing. After you traverse the rafters of a very tall building, you will find his corpse on the floor of that tall building, very close to where one would have to enter the rafters area. Does this affect the game in any real way? Nah. But it's just one of many fun little details that make the world feel alive.
People appreciate the little touches, I find.
In the same way, Sinners can be enjoyed all on its own, and you will have a great time. It's a gorgeous looking movie with good music, great acting, and a fun vampire plot. That's how I watched it the first time. I enjoyed it. Super fun, cool movie. I didn't really get what the fuss was all about, but that's fine. You can enjoy it and leave it right there. But you can also look for little details that reinforce the theme, or vague bits with just enough detail to theory craft on. Like, who is this Irish vampire and how did he get here? These two channels, Folklore in Film and Irish Myths, teamed up to dive into who he might be, historically speaking, and why, and it's extremely interesting. They also pointed out things like how Remick slightly altered some of the lyrics of one of these songs and the importance of those changes and the song choice itself. We also get little bits of the Smokestack Twins' history, like how they developed their respective attitudes and got to this place in life. And it's just enough to paint the outline of a picture and let you ask a few questions and possibly fill in some blanks. None of this is required to enjoy the movie, but it does add to the rewatchability, and it's great if you enjoy watching those kind of videos dissecting these little Easter eggs. The reason why The Secret Agent is crap and Sinners is great is because Sinners, at face value alone, is still a highly entertaining experience. And then, if you're keen to look under the surface and read between the lines, there's more to discover, but it's not required. Now look, Sinners is going to win a lot of awards, and there's going to be some debate about whether it deserves all of them or not, but even if this is not your overall Best Picture pick, this one definitely deserves Best Original Screenplay, because Kpop Demon Hunters was not nominated. Useless! Another reason this is the best film for me is because of how it explores a topic or a theme. In this case, it's identity, the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, each character gets placed on this gradient of how open or closed they are to other identities. The Michael B. Jordan twins are not together on this, with one being more traditional. He marries a black woman. She's into hoodoo.
She got magic and spells, all kind of hoodoo.
And the other one wants to branch out, get different experience. He develops a taste for Irish beer and Italian wine and mayonnaise. Now, you may have heard that this movie is anti-white and anti-Christian, and while I understand why you might instantly believe that, that's a symptom of an environment that Hollywood has created. It's not true in this case. Now, while it is true that Remick has this line in the end about being colonized by people who taught him the Lord's Prayer.
Long ago, the man who stole my father's land forced these words upon us. I hated those men, but the words still bring me comfort.
And the ending of the movie also contains a rendition of the commando garden shooting scene with Michael B. Jordan mowing down Klansmen. The movie also paints Stack as a piece of crap who ran out on Mary here and her mother, the white woman who took him in as a child, refusing to attend her funeral, all while using his identity as an excuse. Also, the only person in the movie who is correct the entire time is Sammy's father, the preacher. Look, everybody in this movie has problems, and they're not shied away from. The movie is called Sinners because that's what they all are. Now, I would argue that this movie is strongly suggesting to the audience that segregation is what's ultimately best for everyone, that identities probably should not mix, with Mary here being a tragic figure with no country, ultimately dying because of her involvement in this black community. And the only ones who survive unscathed are the Indians, who refuse to get involved in anything outside of their own area. The entire bloodbath of a movie only happens because Smoke and Stack bring chaos home with them after stealing from other groups, culturally and physically. But that idea is carried across the board equally, not just against one group. The movie even bends its own idea a little by having Grace and Bo Chow be the twins' go-to for food and cooking, and they all get along. In this black musical history scene, they even have some Shen Yun dancers hopping through it. Now, the movie is definitely leaning toward identity being something that you should guard and not mix, lest you risk appropriation or vampirism. But it does leave the door open for a little bit of it. It explores the theme instead of shouting its point of view at you. Now, I don't want you to be scared away from this one. It's called a horror movie, but I really think that's unfair. I don't do horror at all. Okay, I'm a punk with that stuff. And I was unbothered by this. Also, Mrs. Owen did not require me to walk her to the bathroom the night we watched it, which can happen sometimes after scary movies. So don't worry about this one being scary, and unless you're super squeamish about gore, I really think you should give this one a try. Whether you want to dive into the details or just enjoy it on the surface, I think you're going to have a great time. Like I said earlier, they really need to quit nominating 10 movies and quit trying to appear cultured with boring foreign crap. But this year really had some great films. It also had some films that the average person might have seen instead of a bunch that were only shown in enough theaters to meet the nomination qualifications and were real darlings of the film festival circuit. Do you think the Academy got lucky that it was just a good year full of good movies? Or are they actually realizing their elitist ivory tower is a laughingstock and holds zero allure or authority, so they're finally coming down? Well, a few floors anyway. Let me know what you think of the picks this year and what your top 3, or at least number 1 would have been, and why it's Kpop Demon Hunters. I appreciate you watching. See you next time.